An LOI, or a letter of intent, is one of the most simple but useful tools when you're looking at leasing commercial space. Welcome back to Small Business CRE, episode 10, talking today about letters of intent with commercial real estate. So let's dive in. Where we're going to cover what a letter of intent actually is, where it fits in the leasing process, what terms are typically negotiated within one, whether it's legally binding and why that matters, and then finally, the advantages of using one versus just going straight to a lease. So who am I? My name is Dan Logan. I'm a commercial real estate agent. I work with over 100 small business owners in my own local market, and I always use LOIs when I'm helping my clients negotiate commercial leases and write offers for those spaces. So what is letter of intent? It's simply an offer. It's just a written offer to lease a commercial space. It's just a basic document that's used to negotiate back and forth and reach agreeable terms before you get into the complexity of a full lease agreement. So usually, or at least the letter of intent form that I use, it's 1 to 2 pages. It's a simple Word document. It's basic bullet points. There's between 10 to 20 different items that are negotiated, and you go back and forth with that document before you get into a fully complicated lease agreement. Yeah. So letter of intent, 1 to 2 pages, 10 to 20 items. It's just an editable Word document, and you write that up and you send it over to the landlord, and then we negotiate back and forth from there. And the advantage of doing this compared to going straight to a lease is you can get everything on paper. One of the most annoying things that we deal with as brokers and the landlords deal with is someone, you're talking in person or on the phone or over email, and they're asking, oh, what about this? Would you consider this? Would you accept this? Put it on paper. Like, until you have something on paper in writing as a letter of intent, I don't even know what I'm negotiating about. I'm not going to tell you yes or no until we have everything outlined, because you can ask me about, this section right here, option A, and I'll say yes or no, but it depends on B and C of the offer. So you need to put everything all in one clear document, provide a more broad picture of what you're offering, and then a landlord can actually respond to you. The way we do this is with a letter of intent. Now, you go back and forth in that letter of intent, and you can use the red line function within Word or whatever document system you're using. You use the red line function so you can go back and forth and see the changes the other party has made. And so it's very clear, okay, you changed this, I changed this, I accepted that change, so on and so forth. Now, once the LOI is agreed upon, the landlord will send it to the attorney, and the attorney will take the items that were negotiated in the LOI and they'll put it into the lease document. And the lease, of course, is much longer. It can be anywhere from 10 to 50 pages long, and it's got all the separate clauses, but the information that was agreed upon within that LOI can be translated over into the lease. And now, of course, you're paying attorney fees. So that's why you use the LOI to negotiate through all the big items and make sure you even have a deal that can work here before you start having an attorney write up a document and you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just having an attorney do that. Now, the big thing here is that LOIs are not, okay, we're going with this first. So where does an LOI fit in the leasing process? So first you're looking at spaces, you're looking online, you're looking at signs, you're touring spaces, you find what you like, ask a few questions, but early on, go ahead and submit an LOI to the landlord, and you use this to negotiate back and forth and just make sure you can even reach an agreement. Once the LOI is agreed to, then you kind of iron out your final details. You have both sides have their attorneys get involved with the lease, and then the lease, once that's signed, then everything's official. What typically gets negotiated in the LOI, again, it's the big ticket items. So it's the big items we want to make sure we can get on the same page about before we go and we nitpick all the little stuff. So of course, rent is the big one. How much that rent will increase each year. If there's a TI allowance, are there renewal options in the lease? Is there any kind of exclusivity within the lease? The length of the lease, so probably the rent and the length are the two biggest ones. Is there any free rent? Who's responsible for the maintenance? How's triple net handled? All these different items. The big picture items, is there a broker involved? Who's paying the commissions? What can the space be used for? What kind of changes can be made to the space? All these big items get negotiated as a part of the LOI, and then get moved over to the lease. Now, let's say you guys go back and forth in the LOI, both parties sign it. However, at that point, it's not legally binding. So you can sign an LOI, and essentially you're just saying, I have every intention to go forward with this, and I'm ready to review a lease, but I'm not committed yet. Neither side is. And so there is a risk there if you can put all this time in, and then the landlord could lease it out to someone else. There's nothing saying that if this LOI is signed, the deal has to go through, but it's at least some commitment from both parties, and you're both entering into a good faith agreement of, okay, we've negotiated up to this point, Now let's work on a lease and let's see if we can finalize this deal. Yeah, so either party can walk away. So that means you as a tenant, if you find another space, you can walk away. So if the landlord finds another tenant, they can sign with them. But the benefit is that both parties can negotiate, they can explore the deal, they can see if it'll work out before either side is working through a complex lease or having attorney fees working on a lease agreement. Yeah, why it's worth doing. It saves you a ton of money. Again, you save on the attorney fees. A broker can help you with an LOI, or even you yourself can do an LOI. It's pretty simple. Saves time. Again, if we can't reach an agreement on just the rent, let's not bother going through a 30-page lease and talking about all of the little details in there. Let's see if we can agree on these big items before we dive into the little stuff. It's more professional. This is how most businesses and tenants and landlords operate: is you use a letter of intent before you go to the full lease agreement. And again, if you're trying to make an offer to a landlord over email or a phone, or, oh, would you accept this? It's just not professional. Give them an LOI. It's very easy to do. Submit that letter of intent as your offer in writing. Again, it's not legally binding. You're just trying to get everything together on paper. Again, it creates a framework. Once that LOI is agreed upon, it's very easy for a landlord to take that, give it to their attorney, and their attorney can write up the professional lease agreement. So bottom line, if you're curious about commercial space and you just kind of want to see what can you negotiate, what's possible, what's not, and once you've had those initial conversations and the door's at least open, it's time to submit an LOI, submit a letter of intent to that landlord, and just see, could this deal work out, could it not? You get those core terms on paper, and see if it can be worked out before you get attorneys involved, before everyone spends a ton of time working on this. It helps you filter out deals. Submit 2 or 3 LOIs to different spaces you like and see which ones are going best, and then really pursue that one that goes best. That's a professional way to do it, using an LOI, and it helps set up the actual lease. Hopefully, by the time you get to a lease, you've already gone through most of the items. There's only a few small things to work out. So once you get that lease agreement, all the big items have been ironed out already. Thanks for watching. If you want, free PDF linked below. Top 5 mistakes I see small business owners make when leasing commercial real estate. If you found any of this helpful, please leave a like. It helps me out a lot. Thanks.